Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at a fascinating new study that's really got people talking.
Yeah, it's definitely making some waves in the mental health world.
Exactly. So this study published in JAMA Network Open is really kind of shining a light on this whole intersection between cannabis and the use of traditional mental health medications.
It's really fascinating stuff, especially as more and more states are legalizing cannabis. We're seeing sort of a real-world experiment unfold right before our eyes.
Right. Like, what happens when people have easier access to cannabis? Does it change how they approach their mental health treatment? And that's exactly what this study wanted to explore.
Yeah, they looked at commercially insured patients across the US to see how those changing laws were impacting, prescription trends.
And what's really cool is they use this method called synthetic control to really isolate the impact of the cannabis laws.
Yeah, like did those laws actually cause changes or was it something else going on at the same time?
Right, so it's like creating a virtual mirror image of each state, but without the legalization part.
Exactly. So you can compare what happened in the real world with what would have happened if those laws hadn't been passed.
So what did they find? Well, the headline is pretty striking. Access to cannabis, both medical and recreational, was linked to a significant decrease in the use of benzodiazepines.
Yeah, those are like the big anti-anxiety medications like Xanax and Valium, right?
Yep. And we're not talking about a small drop here.
Yeah.
The study found double-digit percentage reductions in the number of people filling those prescriptions.
Yeah, which is pretty significant when you consider the potential risks that come with those medications, like misuse dependence, even those scary withdrawal symptoms.
Exactly. So if some folks are substituting cannabis, it could potentially be a safer option, but we definitely need more research to confirm that's what's actually happening.
Absolutely. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. The study also found some evidence suggesting that cannabis access might be associated with an increase in the use of antidepressants and antipsychotics.
Whoa, okay. So is cannabis potentially helping some conditions but maybe making others worse? I mean, what could explain these seemingly contradictory findings?
Well, it's important to remember this study doesn't prove cause and effect. We're
Yeah.
talking about correlations here. There could be a whole bunch of other factors at play.
Right, and this study was focused on commercially insured patients specifically.
Yeah, so it's totally possible that people with different types of insurance or without insurance might respond differently,
Huh.
you know?
Okay, so lots to think about here. It definitely seems like this study is cracking open the door to a whole new room full of questions about the complex relationship between cannabis and mental health treatment.
Yeah, we're just starting to scratch the surface here. There's a lot more to uncover.
We'll dive into some of those questions and more in just a bit.
Stay tuned. It's like cannabis isn't this like magic bullet for mental health?
Right, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
complex plant. It has like a whole range of effects. And we're really just starting to understand how those effects can vary from person to person?
It makes sense. I mean, it's like some people swear by coffee to wake them up, while others get like jittery and anxious from just a sip.
Exactly. And even within a single condition like anxiety, there's a huge spectrum of severity and symptoms, right? So what works for one person might not work for another or could even make things worse.
Yeah, so this research is really important because it helps us move away from those broad generalizations and, start to get a more nuanced understanding of how cannabis might actually fit into mental health treatment.
Yeah, it's less about cannabis versus traditional medications and more about finding the right approach for each individual.
Right, so it's about personalized medicine.
Exactly. We need to consider each person's individual needs, circumstances, preferences, all that stuff when we're making treatment decisions.
And that's where open communication between patients and their healthcare providers becomes so important.
Totally. And that raises another interesting point, as cannabis becomes more mainstream, like how do healthcare providers navigate this increasingly complex landscape of treatment options?
Yeah, are they getting the training and support they need to advise patients about cannabis responsibly?
That's a really critical question. We need to make sure that healthcare professionals have access to the most up-to-date research and evidence-based guidelines so they can make informed decisions with their patients.
And just as importantly, patients need to feel comfortable talking to their doctors about cannabis use openly and honestly without fear of judgment.
Exactly. So this research gives us a snapshot of what's happening right now, but there are still a ton of unanswered questions.
So where do we go from here? What are like the key areas we should be focusing on in the years to come?
Well, one of the most pressing needs is for long-term studies. This particular study looked at prescription trends over a few years, but we really need data spanning decades to truly understand the lasting impacts of cannabis use on mental health.
Right. Like we need to look beyond those initial changes in prescription patterns
Mhm.
and really dig into how people are actually using cannabis, like the different strains, the methods of consumption, the frequency.
Exactly, and how all those factors relate to both short-term and long-term mental health outcomes.
And we can't forget about the younger generation. Adolescence is such a crucial period for brain development. So we need to understand how cannabis use during those formative years might influence mental health trajectories.
Absolutely. We need research that's specifically focused on adolescence,
Yeah.
and considers the unique vulnerabilities and needs of that age group.
And beyond that, we need to think about other specific populations: pregnant women, older adults, individuals with pre-existing mental health conditions. There's just so much we still need to learn.
It seems like there's a ton of work to do, but it also feels like we're at a really exciting turning point in this whole conversation about cannabis and mental health.
Yeah, like we have this real opportunity to harness the potential of this plant while also minimizing the risks.
Right, and that's going to require a really collaborative and interdisciplinary approach.
We need researchers, healthcare providers, policymakers, and community members all working together, to create a future where cannabis can play a positive and responsible role in supporting mental well-being.
Yeah.
It's like, as we've been talking about this study and like all the implications, it's really got me thinking about this bigger question, like what does true mental well-being actually look like?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And how do we create a society that supports that vision, for everybody?
It's a really profound question, and I think it goes way beyond, just finding the right medication or the right therapy.
Right.
It's about addressing those like root causes of mental health challenges,
Yeah.
things like poverty and trauma and social isolation.
Yeah, it's about creating the sense of belonging and connection where people feel supported and empowered to actually take care of their mental health.
For sure.
And like having communities where there's no shame in seeking help,
Yeah.
where resources are accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances.
Absolutely. And I think just as importantly, it's about prioritizing prevention, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what if we actually invested in early intervention programs
Yeah.
and promoted mental health literacy and taught coping skills from a young age?
Imagine a world where mental well-being was just like woven into the fabric of society from the very beginning.
I love that. So this deep dive has been like eye-opening for me. It's really broadened my perspective on the whole complex relationship between, cannabis mental health medications and all these larger systems that are at play.
Yeah, it's not just about the substances themselves, right?
It's about the policies and the cultural attitudes and just the way we as a society approach mental health in general.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that mental health is not like a destination you reach.
Right.
It's a journey you're constantly on.
We're all on it together.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, we want to leave you, our listener, with this final thought. How can you contribute to creating a more mentally healthy world? Yeah, what are those like small steps you can take in your own life and in your community to foster connection, compassion, understanding?
Because even the smallest acts of kindness can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep taking care of yourselves and each other.